You want the painting to be as complete as possible, so that any time the director comes over and says, or might contact you and say, how's it going? Can I see what it's looking like so far? You have a great representation of how the end product is going to look. Some people, their end product really starts to come together towards the very, very end. And in the very beginning, it's very hard to tell what the heck's going on at all. With my method, I do this specifically because this way, if the director wants to look at the art at any time, it's always going to look quite complete, and they really enjoy that. And then they're going to enjoy it even more when they see the final product, because the final product is going to be even more finished than this version right here. So now that I created this first light tone, okay, so that looks great. I'm very happy about that. Let's continue. Let's continue on to the other stuff. I'm just trying to fix up some of the lighting right here, make sure that it's the tone that I wanted it. It just feels a little dark. So let me just glaze over a little bit. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Let's move on. Put on some little light bits inside the head right here. Okay, so let's move on. And where are we going to move on to? Well, we can move on to anywhere you want. Just want to select one of the darker areas again. Okay, so where am I going to go to? I'm going to go to the skin. Okay, and I dropped a local tone here, and from here I'm going to pick my new tone. Okay, and generally what you want to do is head towards the upper left when you get lighter and lighter. Okay, that's a very general rule, but it does work. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go lighter, I'm going to go a little bit warmer, and there we go. Okay, so let's start with that. Perhaps, just in case, if there's anything that I'm not 100% sure on, I would do it in a separate layer. So just in case, let's do it on a separate layer. I have this habit of not using many layers at all. That just comes from using Photoshop since Photoshop 1. Photoshop 1 to 3, I think. Back then, you couldn't really do anything too spectacular, too many layers, because your computer would crash. So because of that, I always developed this habit of consistently always merging my layers together. I've kept them separate this time on purpose, especially for the video. But usually what I do is I would start merging all these layers as I go along. It keeps everything nice and clean, very easy to find your layers. And it's just been a habit that I've been doing for quite a while. Okay, so there we go. That's starting to look pretty good. And as you might have noticed, I backed out again, and I'm painting it from a version where I can see the whole entire thing. I'm not zoomed in heavily or anything like that. I'm just painting it backed away so I could see the whole entire painting. And like I said, it makes things go so much faster. And that is an essential part to being a conceptual artist in this business, is to be able to do things quickly. Okay, so there we go. That looks pretty good. Let's go onto the arm right here and build up a little bit of nice tones over here for the arm. Now I'm looking into a smaller window, and I'm looking at that, and I'm going, oh, okay, those folds are looking way too big, so let me just erase that. And that kind of brings me to my next point of why I use a smaller window. You know, why do I have that smaller window there? That smaller window allows me to look at my painting from a distance. How does it look, you know, as a whole? That's what that window is telling me. A lot of times the painting could look great in the bigger window and not so good in the smaller window. You know, so what that tells me is that I have some great little pockets of detail, but overall it's not working. It has to look good in the smaller window. I can't emphasize that point enough. If you saw me painting right now, you'd see my eyes going back and forth between the smaller window and the larger window. Okay, so there we go. That looks pretty good. Okay, and a little bit more on towards the head. And now that I'm looking at this, I see that I don't really want these green spots anymore on the head. I want them to be dark. So I'm not going to bother to lighten them up with this lighter green. I'm going to actually go over top later on and darken all those spots. Okay, so from here, where can we go? We can go to the fins. We can go to the red spots. We could go to the leather or this little vest. In my head, it's made out of leather. So, or we could go to a fish. Okay, so where am I going to go? It doesn't really matter at this point, but I am going to go to the little spots right here. Okay, so from these spots, I'm going to pick a lighter tone. Okay. Just like that. And see how that looks. I don't really like it. Okay, so let me just pick a more saturated tone here. There.